The pandemic and potential record turnout are making for an election like never before. But what happens after the votes are cast? Amna Nawaz has more on when and how winners from each race will be called.
Welcome to this special election report.
On Election Day, viewers like you tune in for the answer to one key question: who won? This election, there is some uncertainty about when we'll have those results.
It's really sort of math and analysis. That's the way that I think of it. It really is 2 + 2 = 4.
Sally Busby is the executive editor for the Associated Press. The AP has been counting the vote for almost 2 centuries.
Now the Associated Press, we can report, has officially declared...
The NewsHour has relied on the AP count since the program began in 1975. Today, more than 1,500 news organizations do the same.
We've actually been doing that since 1848. When we use literally Pony Express, literally, telegraph lines to gather the vote from Western states and report it for Eastern newspapers. I mean, that's one of the first things that AP did.
Voting's come a long way since then, but at the AP, which is covering the count and calling winners for about 7,000 races this year, the fundamentals haven't changed.
We treat every single one of these race calls with the same level of standard. What we do is that we have, for each state, a race caller who has done a lot of research, who has done a lot of studying, who understands our analytical models. An analyst based in Washington who is helping them look through the data. And then we have 2 decision desk editors who sign off on essentially every major call. It involves a lot of people.
What's different this year? Tens of millions of people have already voted, continuing a trend set in motion decades ago. Back in 1972, only about 5% of Americans voted early. By 2016, roughly 40% voted before Election Day. This year, some estimate that number could reach 60%, meaning more Americans voting before Election Day than on it. How and when those votes are counted depends on which state you're in, and the sheer volume could slow systems down, leading to later calls.
The weirdness of American politics is that many states actually count the in-person on the day voting first, and that's what they release first. And then they go back and they count the early voting.
Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, for example, don't begin counting any ballots until Election Day. Michigan begins counting the day before Election Day. Florida and Arizona both begin counting ballots 2 to 3 weeks before Election Day, and some states like Ohio and Minnesota accept ballots after Election Day, as long as they're postmarked by November 3rd.
It's been true in elections past that some races are called right after polls are closed, and some take many more hours or even days to call. Do you expect that to be the same this year, or do you expect more races to take longer to call?
It's a very good question. I mean, generally speaking, I would say that the trend is going to be exactly like in the past, okay? The biggest single indicator is if a race is close, it is going to almost always take longer to call. If a race is not close at all, we are not going to call any winner until we are sure that there is no path for the trailing candidate to catch up. So if you've got a lot of uncounted early vote, that could in fact impact. You might hold off on a race call until that early vote is counted and released.
Now, the changes in how Americans are voting means some changes to what you'll hear during our election coverage tomorrow night. As votes are counted, the NewsHour will report how much of the expected vote is in. That's an estimate based on historical registration and early voting data. And even that number will change as more of the vote is counted. Also, instead of exit polls, which were limited to in-person interviews as voters left the polls, we'll report information from VoteCast. That right there is a series of voter surveys of about 140,000 people leading up to Election Day. So that includes in-person, early, and mail-in voters.
Barack Obama may be on the brink of becoming the first black president of the United States.
Historically, the hallmark of election night has been calling the big race. And even though there have been years that hasn't happened on the night.
Earlier in the evening, Florida was declared for Al Gore. That's right. And then they changed their minds. And, oh my goodness mercy.
In 2000, 2004, and 2016,
Donald Trump is the next president of the United States.
It is still unclear how long it'll take to determine the 2020 presidential winner.
I think it really depends on how close the race is. In 2004, the winner was not known until the next day. Obviously, in 2000, the winner was not known until December. And even in 2016, we called Donald Trump the winner, I think, at like 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday, right? So some people had gone to bed. My parents had gone to bed, for example. But it is, if it is a race where one person is very far ahead, then it is more likely that it will be called on election night or shortly after midnight.
The Democrats are trying to rig this election.
And despite President Trump and others sowing doubt in the election process, Busby says AP's record speaks for itself.
We have called the winner of every presidency without fear or favor or partisanship or any opinion of any person in our organization. We've called it on facts and math, year after year after year. This is not a magic show. This is based on facts and math and state law, and all we're doing is reporting what's happening.
Work done with caution, precision, and most importantly, reflecting the will of American voters. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Amna Nawaz.